So one of the things that new sewers come up against almost straight away is, how on earth do I thread this machine? It's all fandangled and I can't remember from when I was at school and it's all a nightmare and I want to run screaming for the hills. Does that sound a bit like you? Don't panic, we will do this together. So I'm going to show you on my machine, which is a mid-range machine, but you'll be pleased to know that all machines pretty much thread in the same way, with one exception. So we're going to look down there. There we go. As if by magic, at my machine. So as I said, this is my machine. It's a mid-range machine. It's a Brother Innovus 550, but that doesn't make any difference to the threading to your particular machine, whatever it is. The only exception that is to the threading is that sometimes I found on the older machines, perhaps from the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, that kind of era, then the order of threading around this little bit here swaps around. But as long as you know what you're looking for, you can get around that. So first things first though, we are going to unthread the machine and take this old spool out, only because I'm going to swap it for a dark thread so that you can see what I'm doing. Now this would actually be your first lesson, because most people grab the thread here and they pull it out. It's really tempting, I know, but actually you're doing your machine and yourself a disservice if you do that, because if you pull the thread out in that direction, you're pulling the thread against all the mechanism inside. So your machine is designed to run the thread through in that direction so it comes out of your needle. It's not designed to go the other way. And if you're pulling against all the inner workings, it's likely to get caught, snagged, leave a bit of fluff behind or whatever, and that can cause issues with your machine, which unfortunately can really only get sorted out by a sewing machine engineer. So you can save yourself that heartache and the money by getting rid of that spool in the safe way, which is to get a pair of scissors and simply snip the thread up at the spool end and then pull it out from the needle end. And that's all there is to it, and that'll save you all that hassle. So I'm going to take this spool off and, as I said, replace it for a dark spool of thread. Do not lose your little spool cap, by the way. These are designed to hold your spool onto your spool cap, on your spool holder, especially if your spool holder is a horizontal. My brain's gone. Horizontal spool holder like this one here. So if we look at the thread goes on a machine, or the spools go on the machine in exactly the same way, whether you've got a vertical spool holder or whether you've got a horizontal spool holder like mine. And the rule is that your thread comes out from behind to the left. Okay, so if I had a vertical spool holder and it's coming out from behind to the left, if I then turn that very simply as if it was lying down, you can see that my thread is coming from behind, but now it's coming in front. So it's the same direction. Can you see that? So from behind to the left, from behind out to the front. Okay, so all machines thread in exactly the same way. They start off exactly the same way. Doesn't matter the age of your machine, we go in that direction. So mine is horizontal, not vertical, and I'm going to pop that onto the spool holder, and I'm going to put the cap on to hold that in place. It doesn't need to be jammed, as long as the spool holds in place. Sorry about the motorbike going past. I live in the middle of the countryside, and whenever I'm recording, there seems to be the whole world decides that's the point to travel past our house. So we've got our thread coming out from behind underneath. And then if you look at your machine, so before we do anything else, let's have a quick look at our machines, because you'll see pretty much you have a numbering system. So mine starts with number 1, thankfully, then it goes to number 2, and then we can follow that sequence down until we thread the machine. So take a moment now to have a look for your numbers. So we've got 1, 2, it generally comes down in this direction, there's 3, and then we loop up here to 4, then it will come down, then there's a 5, and just underneath here at the top of your needle you'll find a little thread guide. There's normally a little bar for your thread to fit behind. Sometimes machines have 2 bars, so have a look now just to see what you've got at the underneath this bit and on top of your needle. And then of course we've got the needle itself and the potentially the threader as well, but we're going to skip the threader and go straight to the needle. Let's keep things simple for this video. All right, so let's get the camera back again so that you can see the whole process. So we're simply going to follow those numbers in that order. It's useful if you use both hands because that stops the thread just from coming off your spool willy-nilly. So I'm going to go number 1 first. So where it tells me, it says number 1, now go down here, and I'm going to loop under this little metal bit here. And then it says loop around there, and then it says number 2, go off in that direction. So if I move my camera up, and I can go round that direction. Then it says go down. So I'm going to go down here. Even if you didn't have those arrows, you would still go in the same direction. I'm going to come down here and then I'm going to loop up. And by the way, on some of the older machines, instead of printed on the plastic body, you may find it sort of stamped in. So some of them can be a bit difficult to find because they're the same colour as the body of the machine. But do have a look. And then we're going to come up here, and then at the top here it says 4 and it loops round. Now you need to make sure that your looper at the top there is at the uppermost position. So it's a good idea just to use your hand wheel just to make sure that your needle is in that uppermost position so that when you guide the thread round, it'll go into the guide there. So on this machine, we're going to slide it round the top of this section here. And I know then it will go into my threader guide, which you can't see, but it is deep in there. I call them a giraffe head. I don't know what else to call them. They do have an official name. To be quite honest, I could never remember because I think they look like a giraffe head. And in my world, that's kind of stuck. So if you've got a better name for them, let's ignore all the flashy proper names. What would you call yours? I think it looks like a giraffe head, so that's what I call. So look for the thing that looks like a giraffe head, and you'll see that it's got a slit in it, and that's where your thread needs to go through, and it slides in. And normally by stroking around this section here, you will catch it in that sort of slit in the top of your giraffe's head. Okay. Put a comment below if you can think of a better name for the giraffe head. But let's leave the official names for the engineers. So I'm going to come down here, and then the next thing I'm going to do is come underneath there, and there is a little bar. So I'm going to move my camera right down so that you can hopefully see, she says, with luck. Let's see if I can pan in as well. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? I hope you've got your binoculars on. So if I point with my scissors right at the top of the needle there is a bar. Okay, so mine is not really showing up on camera, but have a look at yours. You will find there's a little bar. Sometimes the opening is on the right, sometimes the opening is on the left. I don't know which way around your machine is. Just have a look because it's either one way or the other. But either way, your thread is going to go behind that bar. And it is tricky, but if I use both hands like I just did, you can normally just slide it into position behind that bar, and that guides your thread down the needle. If you haven't threaded it behind that bar, it can go a bit funny when you're stitching, to be honest. So I'm not going to use the threader guide. That's a whole other exercise in itself. On this machine it is incredibly easy, but I want to show you how to thread a needle the easy way. If you can't use your automatic threader, or it doesn't work anymore, and if it's an older machine, they're unlikely to have them, let me show you my almost foolproof way to thread a needle. So I'm going to put the presser foot down. Okay, so that's the lever that's at the back here. Let's see if I can see. I've got a lever there that puts my presser foot up and it puts it down. So I'm going to put it down. The only reason for that is it gives me a little bit more space. And then I'm going to get the end of my thread, and I'm going to get my scissors, and I'm going to cut it with a little slant. Okay, you won't be able to see that slant, but it will help you. And then the second thing, before I do anything else, I'm going to put my reading glasses on. If you've got to that age, you'll know that this is an essential to all things sewing. So we're going to get that thread. Now, I know it is tempting to lick the end of the thread. We are not going to do that. No. We are going to lick our finger though, and we're going to put our finger behind the needle and just wet the eye of the needle from behind. And as we do that, and I'm going to have to lean down because I cannot see the eye of the needle from this far up, we are going to thread the needle from front to back, which is almost impossible in a position where I can't see. So just bear with. There we go. It's gone. Okay. Sorry, I know I disappeared down the camera, but I really can't see from this far up with my reading glasses. If you got to that age where your reading glasses, you can read things right in front of you, see things in front of you, but then they become a bit of a distance away and you have no hope of seeing anything. But if you're close enough, and I'm going to leave that loose just for a minute to show you. If you're close enough and you don't have a camera in the way, which I'm assuming that you don't, then by threading the needle, we always thread from front to back. By wetting the eye of the needle behind, that draws the thread through. And it goes through pretty much first time every time, as long as you can get close enough to see. And the slanty bit on the end of the thread just helps it slide through that much easier. The things that you need to watch out for is that sometimes the thread can get twisted up and you'll end up with somehow a knot. You don't want to start sewing with that. You want to make sure that this thread is sewing through nice, going through nice and easily through your needle from front to back. And that's pretty much all there is to it, apart from one last thing. I'm going to raise my presser foot and I'm going to pop my thread through that little gap on the presser foot and put it out to the back, because that's our sewing position, or our starting sewing position. So I hope that's helped. If you want to know how to do the bobbin, I've done a whole series on threading your bobbin, winding your bobbin, loading your bobbin into the machine, whether you've got a top loading or a side loading. So I'll put the links down below this video so you can go and check those out as well. If you've got any questions at all, please put a comment below. I'll take my glasses off. Please put a comment below and I will answer them for you. Love to hear from my subscribers. And last but not least, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really does help my little channel to reach more beginners just like you who need some help. So I hope that has helped you, and I will say much love and I will see you next time. Bye for now.